Stop struggling to find perennials that survive in your zone. These 5 bulletproof perennials thrive everywhere from Alaska to Florida, from Maine to California, handling brutal winters in Zone 3 and scorching summers in Zone 9 without missing a beat. If you've ever lost plants because they weren't hardy enough or heat tolerant enough, these universal champions are about to change your gardening game completely. Before I reveal these zone-defying perennials, hit that like button if you're tired of plants dying because of your climate. Subscribe to this channel for plant recommendations that actually work in real-world conditions across all zones, and ring that notification bell so you never miss our universal gardening guides. Your climate-proof garden starts right now. Alright, let's dive into the 5 perennials that thrive literally anywhere in North America. Here's the frustration every gardener faces. You find a beautiful perennial, get excited, buy it, plant it, and then discover it's not hardy in your zone. Or it's hardy but can't handle your summer heat. You're stuck choosing between plants that survive your winters but struggle in summer, or plants that love summer but die in winter. But certain perennials are genuinely universal. They're cold hardy enough to survive Zone 3 winters with temperatures dropping to -40 degrees, yet heat tolerant enough to thrive in Zone 9 with summers exceeding 100 degrees. These plants adapted to extreme climate ranges and handle whatever Mother Nature throws at them. The 5 perennials I'm sharing today all thrive in USDA zones 3 through 9, covering the vast majority of North America. Whether you garden in Minnesota, Texas, Maine, or Arizona, these plants will survive and perform beautifully. They're not just survivors, they're thrivers, delivering flowers, foliage, and beauty regardless of your climate challenges. Plant number 1, Daylily, the universal champion. Daylilies are the most adaptable perennials you can grow, thriving in zones 3 through 9 with equal success. They handle -40-degree winters in northern zones and 100-degree summers in southern zones without complaint. The trumpet-shaped flowers come in every color except true blue, blooming for weeks in summer. What makes daylilies so universally tough is their extensive, fleshy root system that stores water and nutrients, allowing them to power through both drought and flooding. The roots go dormant in cold winters, surviving deep freezes, then explode with growth when temperatures warm. In hot climates, the same roots access deep moisture that keeps plants thriving through heat and drought. Cold hardiness secrets. Daylilies survive Zone 3 winters, where temperatures drop to -40 degrees, because they go fully dormant. The foliage dies back completely and the roots enter a dormant state that's essentially freeze-proof. Snow cover provides insulation, but even without snow, daylilies survive exposed conditions. Heat tolerance secrets. In Zone 9 with summer temperatures exceeding 100 degrees, daylilies keep blooming because their extensive root systems access moisture deep in the soil. The foliage may scorch slightly in extreme heat, but the plant continues flowering and recovers quickly when temperatures moderate. Universal growing tips. Plant in full sun to part shade. Daylilies adapt to both. Water consistently during establishment, then reduce frequency. Established daylilies tolerate drought but bloom better with occasional deep watering during extended dry spells. Fertilize in spring when new growth emerges and again after flowering to support reblooming varieties. Use balanced fertilizer at half strength. Divide every 3 to 5 years to maintain vigor. Variety recommendations for all zones. Stella d'Oro is the most popular, reliably reblooming with golden yellow flowers. Happy Returns has lemon yellow blooms and excellent rebloom. Pardon Me offers deep red flowers. All perform across the entire zone range. Key benefit: daylilies are genuinely foolproof across all climates. They're pest-free, disease-free, deer-resistant in most areas, and require minimal care. Each flower lasts 1 day, but plants produce dozens of buds, providing weeks of continuous bloom. And they adapt to various soils from sand to clay, wet to dry. Caution: in extreme northern zones, choose early to mid-season blooming varieties. Late-season varieties may not have time to bloom before frost. In extreme southern zones, provide afternoon shade to prevent foliage scorch. Also, daylily rust, a fungal disease, can be problematic in humid southern climates. Choose rust-resistant varieties in zones 7 through 9. Plant number 2, Sedum, Stonecrop, the succulent survivor. Upright sedums like Autumn Joy, Matrona, and Purple Emperor thrive in zones 3 through 9, handling extreme cold and extreme heat with equal ease. These succulent perennials have thick, fleshy leaves that store water, making them drought-tolerant and surprisingly cold-hardy despite their succulent nature. Sedums provide multi-season interest. Attractive foliage spring through summer, spectacular flower clusters in late summer and fall, and architectural dried seed heads persisting through winter. This is year-round beauty from a single plant. Cold hardiness secrets. Sedums survive brutal zone 3 winters because their succulent tissues contain natural antifreeze compounds that prevent ice crystal formation and cell damage. The plants go semi-dormant in winter, drastically reducing water content in tissues, which eliminates the expansion damage that kills less hardy plants when water freezes. Heat tolerance secrets. In Zone 9 with intense heat and sun, sedums thrive because their succulent leaves store water, reducing the need for constant irrigation. The thick leaf cuticle prevents excessive water loss, and the plants actually prefer hot, dry conditions over cool, moist ones. Universal growing tips. Plant in full sun for best performance across all zones. Sedums tolerate part shade in hot southern zones, but bloom less prolifically. Use well-draining soil regardless of zone. In clay-heavy areas, amend with sand or gravel to improve drainage. Water sparingly once established. In northern zones, water occasionally during dry spells. In southern zones, water weekly during extreme heat, but let soil dry between waterings. Fertilize once in spring with slow-release fertilizer, or skip fertilizing entirely. Cut plants to ground level in early spring before new growth emerges. This is the only annual maintenance required. Variety recommendations for all zones. Autumn Joy is the classic, with pink flowers aging to bronze red. Matrona has burgundy stems and foliage with pink flowers. Purple Emperor features deep purple foliage and rose-pink blooms. All perform equally well in all zones. Key benefit, sedums are virtually indestructible across all climate zones. They're drought-tolerant, heat-tolerant, cold-hardy, pest-free, disease-free, and deer-resistant. The late summer and fall flowers provide color when many perennials have finished blooming, and they attract pollinators in droves. Caution! The only way to kill sedum is overwatering in poorly draining soil. This applies in all zones. Wet feet cause root rot that kills plants quickly. Also, sedums need full sun. In shade, they become leggy, weak, and flop open in the center. And in very rich soil, stems can become too lush and topple under flower weight. Use lean soil for sturdy growth. Plant number 3, Coneflower, Echinacea. The native powerhouse coneflowers are North American natives that evolved across a massive geographic range, making them naturally adapted to extreme climate variation. They thrive in zones 3 through 9, handling northern cold and southern heat equally well. The daisy-like flowers with prominent central cones come in shades of purple, pink, white, yellow, orange, and red. Coneflowers bloom from midsummer through fall, providing months of color and attracting butterflies and bees constantly. The seed heads persist through winter, feeding birds and providing architectural interest. Cold hardiness secrets. Coneflowers survive Zone 3 winters because their prairie natives evolved in regions with brutal winters and no snow cover for insulation. The plants develop deep taproots that anchor them and store energy below the frost line. The crowns are naturally frost-resistant, and the plants go fully dormant, eliminating freeze damage. Heat tolerance secrets. In Zone 9 with scorching summers, coneflowers thrive because they evolved on hot prairies where summer temperatures regularly exceed 95 degrees. The deep taproot accesses moisture unavailable to shallow-rooted plants, and the plants enter semi-dormancy during extreme heat, conserving resources until conditions moderate. Universal growing tips. Plant in full sun across all zones. Coneflowers need at least 6 hours of direct sun daily for best flowering. Use well-draining soil. In heavy clay, amend with compost to improve drainage. Water consistently during the first growing season to establish deep roots. Once established, coneflowers are drought-tolerant and need supplemental water only during extended droughts in all zones. Fertilize lightly in spring or skip it entirely. Coneflowers prefer lean conditions and over-fertilization causes weak, floppy growth. Deadheads spent flowers to encourage continued blooming, or leave seed heads for winter interest and bird food. Variety recommendations for all zones. Magnus is a classic purple coneflower with excellent performance across zones. White Swan has pure white petals. Cheyenne Spirit offers mixed colors including reds, oranges, and yellows. All are equally hardy and heat tolerant. Key benefit: coneflowers are native plants that support local ecosystems, attracting pollinators and providing winter food for birds. They're drought tolerant once established, deer resistant, and low maintenance. The long bloom period and variety of colors available make them versatile for any garden style. Caution: coneflowers can suffer from aster yellows, a disease that causes distorted growth in greenish flowers. Remove affected plants immediately to prevent spread. Also, Japanese beetles love coneflowers in some regions. Hand-pick beetles or use organic controls if populations are high. And in very humid climates, coneflowers can develop powdery mildew late in the season, though this rarely affects overall performance. Plant number 4. Black-eyed Susan, Rudbeckia, Achillea, the golden workhorse. Black-eyed Susans are tough-as-nails native perennials with cheerful golden yellow flowers and dark centers. They thrive in zones 3 through 9, blooming from midsummer through fall with minimal care. The bright flowers are visible from across the yard and attract constant pollinator activity. Black-eyed Susans evolved on North American prairies where climate extremes are the norm, giving them natural adaptability to cold winters and hot summers. Cold hardiness secrets: Black-eyed Susans survive Zone 3 winters because they're prairie natives that evolved in regions with no winter protection. The plants develop strong, fibrous root systems that spread horizontally just below the soil surface. These roots survive freezing solid, then regenerate quickly when soil thaws in spring. Heat tolerance secrets: In Zone 9, black-eyed Susans thrive during intense summer heat because they actually bloom best in hot conditions. The plants are designed for full sun and heat, with foliage that resists wilting and flowers that hold up in temperatures exceeding 100 degrees. Universal growing tips: plant in full sun in all zones. Black-eyed Susans tolerate part shade but bloom less prolifically. Use well-draining soil, though they adapt to clay, sand, or loam equally well. Water consistently during establishment, then reduce frequency. Established black-eyed Susans are drought-tolerant in all zones and need supplemental water only during extended droughts. Fertilize lightly in spring or skip it. Black-eyed Susans prefer lean conditions, and excessive fertilization causes weak growth. Deadhead to prevent excessive self-seeding or leave seed heads for birds. Variety recommendations for all zones. Goldsturm is the most popular cultivar, with large golden flowers and compact growth. Indian Summer features giant blooms up to 9 inches across. Little Gold Star is a compact variety perfect for smaller spaces. All perform equally well across zones. Key benefit: black-eyed Susans provide bright, cheerful color during the hottest part of summer when many perennials slow down. They're native plants that support pollinators and seed-eating birds. They're drought-tolerant, heat-tolerant, cold-hardy, pest-free, and disease-resistant in most conditions. Caution: black-eyed Susans self-seed prolifically. Deadhead to control spread or embrace the naturalized look. They can also suffer from powdery mildew in humid conditions with poor air circulation. Though this is primarily cosmetic and doesn't affect flowering, choose mildew-resistant varieties in humid climates. Plant number 5. Yarrow, Achillea. The tough-as-nails, native yarrow is a native perennial with ferny, aromatic foliage and flat-topped flower clusters in shades of yellow, gold, red, pink, or white. It thrives in zones 3 through 9, tolerating extreme cold, intense heat, drought, and neglect. Yarrow blooms from early summer through fall and makes excellent cut flowers. Yarrow evolved in harsh environments worldwide, giving it natural adaptability to climate extremes that would kill less tough perennials. Cold hardiness secrets: yarrow survives Zone 3 winters because it develops a woody crown at the soil surface that's essentially freeze-proof. The ferny foliage dies back completely in fall, and the plant enters deep dormancy. Even exposed to -40-degree temperatures without snow cover, yarrow crowns survive and regenerate vigorously in spring. Heat tolerance secrets: in Zone 9, yarrow thrives in heat and full sun that would wilt most perennials. The finely divided foliage reduces surface area exposed to sun, minimizing water loss. The plant also goes semi-dormant during extreme heat, slowing growth but not dying, then resumes active growth when temperatures moderate. Universal growing tips: plant in full sun across all zones. Yarrow needs at least 6 hours of direct sun for best performance. Use well-draining soil. In heavy clay, amend with sand or gravel to improve drainage. Water sparingly once established. Yarrow is drought-tolerant in all zones and actually declines with too much water. In northern zones, supplemental water is rarely needed. In southern zones, water occasionally during extreme drought. Skip fertilizer entirely. Yarrow prefers lean, poor soil, and excessive nutrients cause weak, floppy growth that requires staking. Deadhead spent flower clusters to encourage continuous blooming and prevent excessive self-seeding. Variety recommendations for all zones. Moonshine has silvery foliage and pale yellow flowers. Paprika features red flowers that fade to pink. Tutti Frutti offers mixed colors. All perform equally well across the entire zone range. Key benefit: Yarrow is genuinely low maintenance across all climate zones. It's drought-tolerant, heat-tolerant, cold-hardy, deer-resistant, and pest-free. The aromatic foliage naturally repels pests, and the flowers attract beneficial insects and pollinators. The long bloom period provides months of color with minimal care. Caution: Yarrow can be aggressive and self-seed prolifically. Deadhead to prevent unwanted spread. Also, yarrow can cause skin irritation in sensitive individuals. Wear gloves when handling if you have sensitive skin. And remember, more care is not better with yarrow. Overwatering and over-fertilizing cause more problems than neglect. Section 6. What makes these 5 perennials universal? You might wonder what separates these 5 from thousands of other perennials. Here's what makes them genuinely adaptable to all zones. Deep, extensive root systems. All 5 develop substantial root systems that provide multiple benefits. Deep roots access moisture unavailable to shallow-rooted plants, supporting drought tolerance in hot zones. Extensive root networks store energy and nutrients, supporting vigorous regrowth after harsh winters. And spreading roots anchor plants against freeze heave in cold zones. Natural dormancy mechanisms. All 5 enter true dormancy in response to cold or extreme heat. This isn't stress-induced decline, it's programmed adaptation. In cold zones, dormancy protects tissues from freeze damage. In hot zones, semi-dormancy conserves resources during extreme heat. Native adaptability. 4 of the 5, Daylilies are the exception, are North American natives that evolved across wide geographic ranges. They're genetically programmed for climate variation because their natural habitats experience it. Flexible moisture requirements. All 5 tolerate both drought and temporary wet conditions. This flexibility is crucial because northern zones often have wet springs and dry summers, while southern zones have summer monsoons followed by drought. These plants adapt to whatever moisture patterns occur. Pest and disease resistance. All 5 have natural defenses against common pests and diseases. Some have aromatic foliage that repels insects. Others have tough leaves pests don't like. And all resist fungal diseases that plague moisture-sensitive perennials. The combination of these traits creates perennials that genuinely thrive everywhere, not just survive. Adjustments. 2 minutes, 10 seconds. Section 7. Minor care adjustments by climate zone. While these 5 perennials thrive in all zones, small care adjustments optimize performance in extreme climates. Cold zones, 3 to 4. Winter mulch helps, though it's not required for these hardy perennials. Apply 2 to 4 inches of shredded leaves or straw over crowns after the ground freezes. This prevents freeze-thaw cycles that can heave plants out of the ground. Choose early to mid-season blooming varieties to ensure flowering before fall frost. Late-blooming varieties may not have time to flower in short growing seasons. Water consistently during the growing season because summer droughts are common in northern climates. These perennials are drought-tolerant but bloom better with occasional deep watering. Moderate zones, 5 to 7. Standard care works perfectly. Water during establishment, then reduce to occasional deep watering during droughts. Fertilize lightly in spring or skip it. Deadhead as desired. Hot zones, 8 to 9. Provide afternoon shade for daylilies and coneflowers to prevent foliage scorch. Morning sun with afternoon shade is ideal. The other 3 perennials handle full sun even in extreme heat. Water weekly during extreme heat periods, even though these plants are drought tolerant. Deep watering encourages deeper rooting and better heat tolerance. Mulch heavily, 3 to 4 inches of organic mulch, to keep soil cool and retain moisture. This is more important in hot zones than cold zones. Choose heat-tolerant varieties when available. Some cultivars are specifically bred for southern performance and handle heat better than standard varieties. Section 8. Planting for success in all zones. Proper planting ensures success regardless of your zone. Timing by zone. Cold zones, 3 to 4. Plant in spring after soil thaws and can be worked, typically late April to early June. This gives plants maximum time to establish before winter. Fall planting works but is riskier because plants have less time to root before freeze. Moderate zones, 5 to 7. Plant spring or fall. Spring planting, April to May, gives plants a full growing season to establish. Fall planting, September to October, works well because cooler temperatures reduce transplant stress. Hot zones, 8 to 9. Plant in fall, October to November, when temperatures moderate. This gives plants cool season establishment time before summer heat. Spring planting works but requires more water and attention through the first summer. Universal planting steps. Dig holes twice as wide and as deep as the root ball. Amend soil with compost to improve texture and drainage. Set plants at the same depth they were growing in containers. Backfill firm soil gently and water deeply. Mulch around plants with 2 to 3 inches of organic mulch, keeping it pulled back from crowns to prevent rot. Water consistently during the first growing season to establish deep roots. Once established, reduce watering frequency and let plants adapt to natural rainfall patterns. And there you have it. 5 perennials that thrive in zones 3 through 9, handling everything from Arctic winters to desert summers without complaint. No more worrying whether plants will survive your climate. These universal champions work everywhere. Thanks for watching this all-zone perennial guide. If this video solved your zone compatibility struggles with perennials, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel for more plant recommendations that work in real climates across all zones, not just perfect conditions. Comment below and tell me your zone and which of these 5 perennials you'll grow first. I'll see you in the next video with even more universal gardening strategies. Happy all-zone gardening!